Hi, and welcome back to Chase's Everything Shooting. Today we're going to be talking about dehumidifying and making sure that your gun safes don't have any humidity or moisture in them that would create an issue with rust or anything on your firearms. You know, in a lot of areas this isn't super important, but I live in Texas, and yes, it's very important, and I'm sure there's many places around the United States that have high humidities at different times of the year. So today we're going to go over the different ways to minimize that humidity and to keep your firearms safe. Now, the first thing that we're going to go over is going to be the most expensive, and it's called the dehumidifier, and it's electric. Now you're thinking, oh, that's that long strip. No, that'll be coming next. But this dehumidifier is actually a little thing about this big, and I'll show you a picture, and it's got a little tank in it, and it dehumidifies the air and then puts all the moisture into this tank. Now, there's a couple of things that I don't like about this dehumidifier. One is that it's AC. So if you don't have an AC plug inside your safe, you're going to have to drill a hole, get something in there in order to be able to have AC inside your safe. The other thing is that it has a little tank, and that little tank fills up with water. So you need to be able to be looking inside your safe at a pretty regular interval in order to make sure that that doesn't fill up totally to the top. Because if that tank fills up all the way, doesn't overflow, it shuts the dehumidifier down. So then you've got an issue with lots of moisture within your safe. So for me, that's not a great purchase or a great item for me to have. There are times that I don't go in and out of some of my safes, but 3, maybe 4 times a year. So that really doesn't work for me. Now, the other dehumidifier is the rod, and I'm sure most of you guys have seen this out there. It's like a 3/4 inch to 1 inch around rod that emits heat, and you can put it on the floor of your safe or on the side of your safe. But what it does is it heats up the inside of your safe and keeps the moisture out. Now, there's some good and bad to that. I think probably of the ones that use AC, that's probably the one that I would use the most, because it's kind of set it up and leave it. Now, the other thing with that is it brings the environment of the safe temperature up. Okay, that's what stops the humidity. And you know, I've heard from people that, well, you know, if you reach in to grab a firearm, sometimes those firearms are pretty warm. The ammunition's very warm because it's brought the temperature up inside the safe. So, not that that's a bad thing, it's just something you've got to think about. Again, it's AC. So you have to go through and make sure that you've got the power inside your safe. Now, I know that's not a huge thing. I did it on one of my safes. I cut a hole, I pushed the plug through it, I did what I needed to do, then I went back through and I sealed it with fireproof foam. That way, pardon me, there couldn't be, if there was a fire, it couldn't enter into my safe that way. So something you need to do if you're going to do that. Now, let's talk about the other ways to get rid of humidity. And that is with silica gel. And silica gel is, you've seen those little silica beads that are in packs like this, okay? These are little beads inside here, and they actually now have a gel, and that gel absorbs all the moisture, and it's one big kind of a yeah, I guess maybe it looks kind of like Jell-O. I haven't popped one open, but that's the way I perceive it looking like. And it absorbs moisture. And as it absorbs moisture, there's an indicator on the outside, and it says, hey, I've absorbed everything you need to go back and reactivate me. Pardon me, I've got this cold going. So anyway, to reactivate that, what you have to do is on some of those gel units, most of them, you actually have to take them out of your safe and you actually have to plug them in to an outlet, and that brings the heat up inside and it gets rid of all the moisture. Once that's done, you unplug it, put it back in your safe, and it goes about doing what it normally does. Now, there's pros and cons to that. And one, is it's gel, and its gel is pretty new. So is it going to absorb as well as the beads? I can't tell you that. Everything I've read and looked at says it's very, very comparable. But again, I don't have the information. And if you do, if you're running silica gel, please do me a favor and write down below and tell me what you think of it, how good it is. Most of what I use are the silica beads, okay? And like this, I have many of the other types, but I've used those all along and they seem to be working very, very good for me. And I think the best part about them is they're usually pretty small, and you can stick them in your safe and you don't have to worry about taking up very much room in your safe. Now, most of the silica desiccant beads, and they're called Desiccant, those are 3 to 5 millimeters in size inside here. So they're very, very small, but they absorb 40% of their weight in moisture. That's quite a bit, okay? So that's why the desiccant beads have been so popular throughout. I mean, you'll get something from Amazon and it'll have a little desiccant pack inside of it to, make sure it absorbs any of the moisture that may be in the air coming from wherever, okay? Especially if it's traveled from China or overseas. Most of the time, if it's electronics or anything like that, they'll have a very, very small, probably a 1-inch or 1.5-inch diameter silica pack in there in order to absorb all that moisture that may come from being on the ship coming across. Now, one of the things that I like about these bags is that you can take them and use them, and you'll see right here, there's a little blue section. Once this turns pink, I know this has absorbed everything it can absorb, and I have to reactivate the beads. Now, reactivation, there's several ways of reactivating. Number one is you toss it in an oven, and that oven's usually, they run anywhere from 2 to 250 up to 300 degrees, and you leave it in there for 2 to 3 hours. And that takes all the condensation and moisture out of your packet. Now, there's another way that's becoming very popular and is very, very new, and I haven't played with it. I've ordered some and I'm going to figure this out, is that you get this same type of packet, but it's made to throw inside the microwave. And you toss it in the microwave, depending on your microwave. If it's a 800 watt, you put it in there for 3 to 4 minutes. If it's a lower wattage, it goes a little bit longer. Some packets say put it on defrost. There are a lot of different avenues to do it. But for me, that seems to be a very quick and easy way. You're not taking this packet and throw it in the oven and waiting 3 or 4 hours. You're taking a few minutes. So you can check your safe, see if it's turned pink, and then if it has, you can just take it out, drop it in the microwave, heat it up for 3 or 4 minutes, and then let it cool down for 3 to 5 minutes, and put it back in your safe. So it's a 10-minute type situation, not a 3-hour or 2-hour type situation. So there's a lot of new technology coming out in this arena, but I'm not supporting Hornady. I do buy Hornady products, but you know what? There's a lot of manufacturers of these, and you just need to figure out what fits your budget and what you think is the best. Now, in my safes, instead of having the bags, I actually have several other ways of doing this. I have a canister, and it's about this big around, and it's got holes in it all the way around it, and it's got desiccant beads inside of it. And I just stick that in my safe. I go in and look at that occasionally and see if it's changed color, and then I'll take it and dump it out on a pan, put it in the oven, you know, and reactivate it if I have to. Haven't had to do that very often, but now that I'm in Texas in a much more humid climate, I'm definitely going to have to watch that a lot more. Now, along with the cans, there are, of course, the bags, and there's multiple size of bags. There's a bag that's half this size. There's a bag that's twice this size. You know, there's a lot of different manufacturers, and what you need to look at is what size safe you have, the square footage inside, and that'll tell you the size of the bag or the canister that you need, or how many of those bags or canisters you actually need in your safe. So do your homework on this. This isn't a one size fits all. Trust me, that is not the way this works. So do your due diligence in your homework and figure this portion out. Now, one of the things I want to say is there's actually a bulk container of desiccant beads. You can buy them off Amazon. You can buy them a lot of different places. And well, why do we need a bulk container of them? Well, the bulk container is very, very good, especially if you're using one of the cans in your safe, because there is a life to desiccant, okay? And people are going, what do you mean? I thought you could just reuse it and reuse it. You can reactivate it many, many times. But the issue is the more you reactivate it, the less moisture it absorbs. So there is a point where it's going to start degrading its life. So what I really suggest to people is, if you're using the cans, and I really like the cans, and I'll show a picture of them, is to buy the big bulk container, and after a year or two, throw those beads out and put new beads in. Now they're going to say, well, what's the life of a bead? And I will tell you, a desiccant bead, there is no lifespan. It's how much it's used. And I'm not willing to take a chance that I've messed up and those beads aren't doing their job and I get some rust on any of my firearms. So some manufacturers say it's a year. Some manufacturers say 2 to 3 years. I'm going to go probably on the 2-year mark, because I feel that's probably, in my climate, the best time frame. And that way I always know that my desiccant is fresh and it's doing the job that it's supposed to be doing. There are a lot of other products out there, and I've showed you a bunch as we go through this video. And I'm going to say the real important thing is do your research and what works best for your safe. But I will tell you, don't underestimate the use of these desiccants and the dehumidifiers. Put them in your safe, change them, test them, make sure that they're always working, because it's easier to replace a dehumidifier or a desiccant bag or whatever than it is go getting your firearm really fixed and cleaned up and re-blued if you have to, because of some minor rust that you have on it. And you don't want to degrade your firearm. So I hope this is giving you a little bit of enlightenment on this. It was an eye-opener to me, especially moving into a area that has huge humidity at times of the year. And boy, I noticed it. I mean, I pulled out, I did have one that had a little tank on it, and it was full, and I had no clue. So that's why I said no more. I'm not going to use the ones with tanks. I'm just going to stay with either the rods or the bags or the cans, you know, that you can use, or the reactivators, which are in their own little cases and stuff. But again, this is so important. Keep your firearms nice and go out and do your research. Figure out how many of these bags or cans and you need in your safe. In one of my safes, I have 3 of these. Now, is that overkill? Yeah, probably 2 would have been perfectly fine, but I had an extra one and I just tossed it in there. Who cares? These things are relatively cheap, and so why not add a little bit more than you need than take any risks? Hey, I really appreciate you stopping by. I really appreciate it if you would down here subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, do me a favor, just hit the like button, because that helps the algorithm and that gets this information out to more people, and that's the whole goal here, is to get this information out. If you have, or you have some of these dehumidifiers or something and you've got some good information, please post it down below. If you are an expert in this field, do me a favor, put something down below. Let us know some tips and tricks that you have. I'm not an expert, okay? I do my research, I do use these products, but I am not an expert by any means in this field. So again, thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, like. If you can like and subscribe, do that. Hey, Chase, Everything Shooting, thanks for your viewing.